All right. So I believe I have everyone here who is joining the live event. And hello as well to everyone who will be catching our replay event. I am so excited that you all are here under the Beaver full moon in Taurus. Before we jump into everything, I want to make sure that you are in a comfortable position, ready to receive, as well as have a pen and paper handy, or a notebook if you prefer, because there's a lot of information that is coming at you tonight. And there's also going to be some dedicated time for some journaling prompts. So I want you to be prepared ahead of time for that. So with that being said, go ahead and grab those items if you have not already. And I want to just kind of give you an overview of what's going on for tonight. Before we jump into everything that we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to open with a ritual prayer, as I usually do with all of these events. We're going to dive into the energy of tonight's supermoon, the Taurus qualities, and kind of the energy that is out there for the collective. We'll get into a few journaling prompts, which will help to get us into the mental state that we need to be in order to start working on some crystal grid work. My name is Alli, for those of you who don't know me or who are newly joining us from social media. I am the owner of Ascend Studio Salon, currently located in Sunnyvale, California, and I am very excited to be starting a community of people who are interested in like-minded things. Every month, it's a priority for me to share some of these spiritual experiences, tools, and gifts with the collective, because I believe that this is just an extension of who we are as human beings, and it ties into our beauty, our unique essence, because beauty is more than just skin deep. Now, let's begin with our ritual prayer. Let's take a few deep breaths. And let's begin. Under the light of this full beaver moon, we gather as one, united by the strength of Taurus and the power of this supermoon. We stand grounded, connected to the earth beneath us, anchoring ourselves in stability, resilience, and peace. May the energy of this moon guide us, helping us release what no longer serves, and opening us to abundance, prosperity, and growth. As we stand together, may we draw in the richness of earth, calling forth the Taurus qualities of patience, wisdom, grounded energy, and clarity. Let this night strengthen our roots and open our hearts so that we may manifest our dreams and support each other on our journeys. With gratitude, we honor the cycles of the moon and the gifts of the earth. May our intentions be blessed and our paths aligned with peace and prosperity. So it is, and so it shall be. So, tonight's energy, tonight's moon, the fourth and final supermoon of 2024, is the Beaver full moon, and it is bringing in a unique blend of stability, grounding, energy, and abundance, especially under the sign of Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign ruled by Venus, so it's especially emphasizing comfort, sensuality, and practical security. Talking about grounding and stability, tonight's moon is begging for us to get connected with our physicality, with slowing down, centering, and focusing on creating tangible foundations for the future, with an emphasis on money and material possessions, heightening our awareness to our financial and physical security. When it comes to self-care, Venus is all about self-care and relaxation. And just showing up tonight for tonight's event is one step in showing yourself a little bit of self-care and giving yourself the time to connect with your inner self. Now, talking about sensuality, this is more than just sexuality, but it's all about the sensory pleasures of being in this physical existence and the things that we get to enjoy with all of our senses. So, reconnecting with our body, reconnecting with nature, enjoying comforting and nourishing food, enjoying cozy environments, wearing comfortable clothes that make us feel really good. These are all examples of tapping into our sensuality. Self-care and sensuality, as I mentioned, are very crucial under tonight's moon in order to get yourself grounded and centered and be able to, number one, release things and make room for more blessings and manifestations to come in, but also in order to keep ourselves grounded and rooted in order to do those manifestation workings. Now, speaking of manifestation and abundance, as I mentioned, it is our fourth and final supermoon of 2024. Supermoons are a great time to get into meditation and do manifestation work, especially with the influence of Taurus and Venus. There's no better supermoon to do all of these workings under. Now, typically, full moons are a time of culmination. It's a time for wrapping up projects and for reflecting on the things that we've been working on. But because it is a super moon and there's only four of them in a year, it's also a really good time to manifest. So set intentions around stability, around growth, and around longevity, because that is what Taurus is the best at. First and foremost, we need to release what no longer serves us. And so, with our journals or your notebook and paper or and pen ready, let's get into some journaling prompts because these journal prompts are going to get us into the mindset of what the work that we're about to do tonight. Okay, so journal prompt number one. What limiting beliefs do I have around my financial stability? How is that mental state preventing my ability to manifest abundance? And journal prompt number two, how would it feel to attain that which I am already trying to manifest? What is it going to be like? What is it going to feel like with all of those blessings and abundance already mine? So, an example of something that you might want to write about in this section is maybe I have some limiting beliefs around never having enough money, never having enough time, because time is also a form of abundance. Abundance is something that we can take as a it's something that you can interpret. What does abundance mean to you? Does that mean more time with your family? Does that mean more time doing the things that you love? And what kinds of things are you telling yourself that is blocking you from being able to enjoy all of the abundance? Now, once you've written down all of those factors that you feel are blocking you or in your way, I want you to segue this journal entry into the feelings that you will have once it is already yours. Imagining yourself already in the position of having all of this money or having all of the time in the world to be able to enjoy the things that you want to enjoy or spend the time with your friends and family. What does that feel like? Does that feel like a buzzing sensation? Does that feel like sparks? Is it inspiring? Like really settle into what those feelings are that come up, because that is the vibration, the energetic vibration that you need to tap into in order to channel and bring in all of those manifestations faster. So at this point in time, I do want to honor the space that you're in and the fact that you showed up tonight to do this work. And so I have a video and some music that is going to play. We have a countdown timer here for 5 minutes. Go ahead and take the time to work on that entry. I'll see you in 5 minutes. welcome back. If you needed more time to finish up the journaling entries, definitely wrap that up after this because there's a whole lot of information coming at you. But this is a really great start for the work that is ahead and that is required for the crystal grids. So let's get into it. Crystal grid work and sacred geometry. I'm very excited to share my knowledge about this stuff with you tonight because um, Taurus is an earth sign and crystals are inherently of the earth. And so I thought this was a perfect spiritual tool to offer to you to add into your toolbox, so to speak, your metaphysical toolbox. And before this class began, I actually already created a collective crystal grid, which I will show at the end. But I first want to give you the information so that you understand what the heck you're looking at. First of all, what is a crystal grid? What is it for? Crystal grids help to focus your intention and your energy when manifesting your goals. It's a powerful tool for co-creation with the universe. And what I mean by co-creation with the universe is that we can, write down our goals and what we want to manifest, and we can hope and wish and think all we want. But until we take aligned, intentional action and actually put energy behind those desires, then we're not doing anything. We're just sitting and hoping and wishing and praying, right? So co-creation with the universe, utilizing a crystal grid is just the beginning stages of actually taking action and taking aligned steps towards whatever our end goal will be. So let's dive a little bit deeper. There are 5 key steps that you need to follow in order to create a successful crystal grid. Number 1, setting your intention. What is the goal behind this crystal grid? Number 2, selecting the sacred geometry shape that you're going to utilize for the grid. Number 3, selecting your crystals that align with your intention. Number 4, the placement of your crystals. And step 5, and probably the most important step, is grid activation. Now, just like I had already touched on with your intention, it's all about what do you want to achieve? Is it about love? Is it protection, abundance, clarity, healing, etc., etc.? No matter what your intention is. For tonight, I set the intention for collective healing, among other things, but we'll dive into that later. You want to make sure to get as specific as possible with your intention and make sure to write it down. So here I have written down for our grid that we're going to work on later what the intention is. The next step will be to utilize sacred geometry, selecting a pattern that is going to best correlate with your end goal. And I have a whole bunch of information coming for you. Get ready to screenshot. The other piece of considering the sacred geometry is the energetic flow that happens with each pattern, as well as selecting a safe place to put it in, somewhere that's not going to get disturbed on a day-to-day. If you have cats or children or anything like that, obviously you don't want to place your grid in an area where it's going to get disturbed or messed up. Okay. When you're selecting your crystals, making sure that you're selecting stones that are going to correspond to your end goal, with one large stone at the center as your focus stone, and then all of the supporting stones that are going to go around it. The placement and the order in which you place your stones is also important. The biggest stone, your focus stone, is always going to go in the center. And you'll place it over your written intention or your goal imagery. And then you will secondarily place all of your supporting stones around that center stone. Okay. Now, with your intention, as I said, you're going to want to get really specific with it. You can, of course, write your intention down in a journal, but I definitely recommend writing it on a separate piece of paper so that this can be placed underneath your actual grid or underneath the center stone of your grid. Before placing this under the focus stone, spend some time with this piece of paper, meditating on the energy that you're wanting to bring back to you, or in this case, for what I've created for us for the collective tonight, the energy that I want to continually be moving outward towards the collective. Now, imagery is an optional thing that you can also include, such as images, paintings, collages, photography, or even token items placed around your grid, not like on or as a part of your grid, but just placed around it can also help to tie in more of that energetic vibration that is attached to your desired outcome. So, for example, if I were creating a crystal grid all around abundance, right? My intention written down wouldn't just be abundance, because again, abundance is kind of a term that is more subjective. Abundance could mean time with friends and family. It could mean more time to do the things that you enjoy doing. Abundance could mean $1 million. Very different things. So it's important that you write down what that abundance is. And then if I were working on a grid for abundance, the imagery that I could place it around it would be a cornucopia of that's overflowing with cash and coins, or it could be actual, dollar bills, $100 bills, whatever it is, placed around the grid. But again, that's an optional thing. And definitely if you are wanting to bring in more of that energetic vibration, but it is not required, just in a little extra step. Next up, the crystals that you select are absolutely important. Number one, the most important stone on your grid is going to be the focus stone. It's the largest crystal that's going to be placed in the center, and typically a quartz tower. Quartz in any kind of crystal work is considered a universal energetic conductor. So a quartz tower is a great way to enter or to anchor your energy and focus your intentions at the center of your grid. The supporting stones that you collect, you want to make sure that the metaphysical properties of those stones are aligned with your intention in order to complete the grid. When you are first learning how to set up a crystal grid, consider the crystal colors. And then when you get a little bit more advanced, you can start to consider the natural energetic lattices of each individual stone. Now, that is an advanced study of crystal grids, and I will share just a brief overview of what an energetic lattice means. But for tonight, and when you're first beginning to build crystal grids, focusing on the color energy is a great place to start. So let's look at that a little bit further. I actually created a 4-page document that I will send out along with this replay recording to your emails that is going to dive into a little bit more detail about how to select your stones. I gave just a few examples of the metaphysical properties associated with certain stones, as well as just some different ways that they can be placed and a little bit more specific examples. I do have more information coming on the slides ahead, so again, get ready to screenshot those, but the document will also be coming with this replay to your email for you to use, print out, and have on hand when you're actually building your own crystal grids. As I mentioned before, more advanced crystal grid workers will consider the energetic lattices. That is essentially the internal crystalline structure of each individual stone before placing them on a grid, but that is Again, that's some advanced stuff. And I just want to share that information with you just to know that that is there. But first and foremost, when you're just starting out, crystal colors are really where it's at. So you're going to want to focus on what the energy is that's associated with each color. There's also on this grid here that I am showing you the chakra association with each color. But choosing stones whose colors also coordinate with your end goal will help to fortify your grid. Okay. So again, this is going to be this grid, this tableau here is going to be sent out in that 4-page document. So if you're not able to screenshot for any reason, maybe you're joining on a computer, don't worry, that will be coming to you in the crystal grid document that I will send after this call. Again, the advanced considerations, I'm just going to mention it here because there is so much that can be considered when going into building a crystal grid. But when we're just talking about beginner crystal grids, consider the colors first and foremost, okay? So again, advanced crystal grid builders would consider their seeker stones, their enhancer stones, the guardian stones, the dispeller stones, the barrier stones, and the attractor stones. And you will see they all correlate with what kind of structure makes up each individual crystal. But we're not going to get into that tonight because otherwise we would be talking for another 3 hours. We're just going to cruise right past that. Let's get into the sacred geometry shapes because this is where our grid really starts to come together and take form. We know that sacred geometry, that is something that's been around for thousands of years. It's a very ancient technology, and these shapes can be found throughout history in various religions and native tribes all over the world. We see circles to represent halos or signs of divinity and unity and the sun. There is significance behind each one of these shapes. This is just a brief overview of what each one of these sacred geometric shapes could be used for, but there are so many more ways that you can use these shapes in order to create a grid that means something to you. I like to create crystal grids that are a little bit more freestyle. That you'll see down here at the bottom is a little bit more of a layering of each one of these elements that I intuitively feel tie into my intention. And my end goal of what I'm trying to manifest. So for tonight's crystal grid that I've built that you'll see here at the end of our call, it is more of a freestyle shape. You will see elements of sacred geometry incorporated into the overall design. Now, if you're looking at this list and you're like, what the heck is a Borromean ring or the Ashoka chakra? Don't worry, I have visuals for you as well as in the document that is going to be coming to you in your email. But here we go. Here are some of the most popular sacred geometry designs that we see in crystal gridworks. We have the Vesica Pisces, we have the Borromean rings or the Holy Trinity rings, we have the Seed of Life, the Flower of Life, the Star of David, the spiral. You'll also notice here with the spiral that I have the Fibonacci spiral here, which starts off a little bit tighter and then expands as it goes out. Unless you're working with like a template, in order to place your rings, it's very hard to get the golden ratio of this spiral perfect if you're just freehanding a crystal grid. So if you just want to create a simple spiral such as this one, that is also an option. Here is an example of both a pentagon, which is the outside perimeter right here, and a pentagram star. You can see those are two blended elements into one. We have the hexagon shape, which is filled with a bunch of triangles. We have the triangle shape, which of course you could just create a triangle, a simple triangle grid. But the example that you see here is Metatron's cube or a Merkaba. We also have the cross, which can be done in a variety of shapes and sizes, not just a simple two-lined cross. We have the tripod of life. And now the difference with the tripod of life and the Borromean rings that we saw on the last page is you will notice that the tripod of life is focusing on the overlapping elements in the center right here. Okay, this is the tripod of life. Whereas on our last slide with the Borromean rings, it focuses on all three of the individual rings. And then we have the Ashoka chakra. And that is one that I actually sort of pulled from what you'll see on my crystal grid, where all of these spokes are coming out and surrounded by a circle. Now, once we've selected our crystals and we've selected a grid design or a sacred geometric shape that we want to use, and we get everything set up in that shape, the grid is not live until we activate it. A crystal grid, in its essence, is an energetic battery. It is something that we can infuse with our energy in order to draw from, right? Crystals, we know, are used in technology. It's used in our phones. It's used in the computers in order to run electric charge through it. And so by setting up all of these crystals into a grid shape, especially a sacred grid shape, we are better able to focus our energy, direct the energy flow where we want it to go, and then tie it back into our being so that we can, again, continually draw from this energetic battery that we're creating for ourselves and our manifestations. So again, reminder, before you even get it activated, hopefully you set it up in a place where it will not be disturbed while it is activated. And an even bigger consideration is, does the spot get sunlight where you're setting it up? That's a really great spot to set it up if you're able to, where it gets sunlight and airflow, because this is going to be great for recharging it and reactivating it later. A hint would be to think, would a plant like this spot? Would a plant thrive in this spot? If so, then your grid is probably going to do really great in that spot. Now, in order to activate your grid, first things first, you're going to need to use a wand. If you don't have a wand, a quartz crystal point works well. If you don't have one of those, you can also just use your finger. But what you're going to do is you are going to trace the energetic lines of your grid from the center focus stone out through the ends of your grid, imagining the energetic flow of each line. And as you're doing that, you are activating that grid. When you have finished tracing that energetic flow, you will connect it back to yourself by touching your third eye chakra. With the energetic flow, you want to be mindful of the pattern that you're using. So if we go back and we look at the example of the flower of life, for example, the flower of life has a whole bunch of options as far as where the energy can flow and go within that pattern. So as you're placing your crystals, you want to be intuitive as far as where that's being placed so that the flow feels natural. When you go to trace the energetic lines of this grid, you want it to make sense. You want the energy to flow easily, seamlessly, and without any really tough angles to navigate, if that makes sense. So once you've initially activated your grid, it's going to be good to go. But as with any energetic battery, it needs to be recharged. It's going to need to be reactivated. This is something that you can do periodically. It doesn't have to be like on a set schedule. And all that's required is retracing the energy lines while holding those same intentions in your mind. Hold that energy and do that for as long as it feels right or until your end goals are reached. Now, let's say you have set up a crystal grid in an area that, like say you're doing it on a kitchen table and you're going to need to use your kitchen table in the future. You can't just like leave it up. Is it possible to move the grid or take it down after it's been activated? Yes, it is, but there is a proper way for storing it if you're going to move it or if you just need to put it away for a little while before bringing it back out. What you're going to want to do is in a mesh bag or a soft cloth or something like that, wrap your focus stone, the largest center stone, all by itself. And then in another bag, mesh bag or soft cloth, you're going to want to put all of your supporting stones. Okay. And then you can put those in another bag together and store those somewhere else. Okay. Now,
I'm beginning to build this crystal.
okay. Now, earlier I told you I put together a crystal grid that I want to focus my energy and intention out towards the collective. I created a crystal grid tonight for the healing. That is my intention behind this grid for the healing of the collective. It's also my intention to send love and protection from negativity, to encourage alignment, the balancing of our chakras, to encourage unity, removing blockages, healing any worry, stress, overcoming fear, promoting calmness and good communication, as well as grounding and harmony. So I've written that intention out. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to meditate on these principles, these properties, this intention that I'm setting out for the collective as we watch this video, and as you see in action how I set this grid up tonight. So I'm going to pop away for just a second and let you watch this video.
Crystal grid tonight for the collective. First up, I gotta cleanse and clear the space that I'm going to be working within. I'm using Palo Santo incense here. I'm also making sure my crystals are charged all day in the sunlight. Sun is a life-giving energy source, and so of course I placed my crystals out in the sunlight today. All of the crystals that I'm going to be using for this grid for the collective as well as for myself later. I'm even charging my protection and cleansing spray. Here's my full setup for the charge outside. Before beginning to build my crystal grid, I'm starting off by using my cleansing spray and protection spray. This is available to purchase. So if you are looking for an auric energetic enhancement to get you into the mindset for your grid work, your manifestation work, any of your magic workings, let me know. After I cleanse and surround myself in protection, I can begin placing the stones, starting with the largest stone in the center, my focus stone. I'm using a quartz crystal flame in the center, and then placing all of my supporting stones around the outsides. I'm using 3 hearts in a tourmaline chunk today, as well as quartz crystal points and selenite wands in order to fill out the rest of this geometric pattern. I am freestyling a pattern tonight that is going to resemble the Ashoka Chakra pattern, but the reason why I intuitively decided to build the crystal grid this way tonight is because the primary element here that we're seeing is a circle, and we know that the circle in sacred geometry is one of unity, of collective healing, and so I felt this was absolutely perfect for my intention that I am setting tonight. I'm also including rose quartz for love and tiger's eye for grounding. The yellow heart that you see on the outside of the circle is bumblebee jasper. At the top of the circle, closest to me, I have peach moonstone, and then I have aura quartz on the left side of the screen. The tourmaline is down at the bottom, and then I top the rest of the grid off with some turquoise. Here is the quartz wand that I'm going to be using to activate this later. And before we get off this call tonight, it is my intention for all of us to collectively activate this grid together. Because I designed this for group healing, it's gotta be activated by the group.
All right, so you got to watch me set this grid up. I am excited to activate this together, as I mentioned. Whenever you're setting up a grid for the collective, it helps to facilitate moving the energy out into the collective if it is activated by a group. And so I'm going to utilize the collective power of our energies here within this call and with the people on replay to work through this exercise in grid activation. And I'm very excited to get to that in just a couple minutes. I have a few more things that I want to let you know about building crystal grids before we get there. Okay. Now, as I mentioned, I put together a crystal grid guide, which I'm going to be sending to you in your email with the replay link as well tonight. But there's also, for those of you who are interested in diving deeper into how to build your own crystal grids for manifestation and meditation work, one of my favorite books that I've used here, and you can see I've literally bookmarked all around this book, is Crystal Grids by Henry M. Mason and Brittany Petrovsky. This book is fantastic. Another book that is really, really great is The Crystal Bible by Judy Hall. Now, in the document that I am sending out, I also have included a free PDF download in that document. So if you don't want to go out and buy another book, if it's just not in the funds for you right now, this resource is still available to you for free via download. Keep in mind, it is 401 pages. This is a massive book. So if you're downloading it, just make sure you have enough space to hold this book. It is a wealth of information, especially if you want to get to know what the energetic properties of each crystal is before you set them into your grid. Of course, there's always Google. You can always use Google, and you can always reach out to me anytime if you have any questions about any of the crystal grid stuff that we went over tonight, or if you find when you are on your own time making your own crystal grids and you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I am more than happy to help, and I would also love to see what crystal grids you do end up building. Now, before you do any of this, I want to just reiterate how important good spiritual hygiene is. Cleansing and clearing being the number one most important aspect of any energetic work that you're going to do. Making sure that the crystals and all the tools that you are using are cleansed. Now, there's a bunch of different ways of cleansing. There is smoke cleansing. You can also use moon water or um, just blessed water in order to wash your crystals, but not all crystals can be placed safely in water without causing damage. And so for those softer crystals, which the Crystal Bible by Judy Hall is really great at outlining how to cleanse all of your crystals. But if you're worried about it, you can also just fill a tray with salt and place your crystals in salt if you're worried about what might potentially happen if you place them in water. Okay. But making sure that you've released what energy or intentions you may have already attached to these crystals in a previous meditation or grid work exercise. Okay, you want to make sure that you have let that go and cleared the energy to be reprogrammed with the new grid's intention. With clearing, you also want to make sure that you're clearing the energetic space that you're going to be working within. So in that video, you saw me do a smoke cleanse with the Palo Santo incense that I had. But if using a smoke cleanse is not an option for you, again, you can also use a cleansing spray and a protection spray. I do have those available for purchase if you're interested and you are looking for something that doesn't involve smoke. As I mentioned, energetic protection is also good spiritual hygiene. We want to protect ourselves from any negativity. And so, energetic protection can be simply encircling yourself in a bubble of white light, if that's something that feels good for you. I also like to, when I just in day to day, I always wear it, but especially when doing any kind of magical workings, I like to wear obsidian, black obsidian on my hands. Charging your crystals. You saw me in that video charge these crystals out underneath the sun. You can also charge crystals under the moon. There is a little bit of a difference in the energy. With the sun energy charging, I feel a little bit more of an uplifting energy that's happening. Our sun is a life-giving energy force. And so I feel this is a really good way to reach out to the collective because the sun affects every single living thing, right? It feeds all of us. Now, moon charging for me is a little bit more of an emotional, it's a little bit more of a softer energy. And so if you're creating a grid that is for mental health, or working on emotional relationships, charging your crystals under full moonlight is a really great option. Last but not least, cleaning up. I already mentioned how you would want to pack up a grid in order to be set up again later or in a different space. But if you are done, if you feel like this grid has already served its purpose for you and you want to be able to put all of these crystals away for future use, go back and see step one, cleansing and clearing. Before you put these crystals away, make sure you've released the energy, the intention that you've attached to them. Thank the crystals for their service because they do have their own energetic vibration. Okay? So don't break up the grid until you have already released the intention. Okay? And that can be as simple, again, as a thank you for your service. All right? You don't want to break up a grid without actually closing that energetic loop out because otherwise you start breaking up that grid. And if your intentions are still attached to that grid, and then you start putting it away with all of your other crystals, which may still have the intention attached to them, well, then all the energy just gets confused. So if you're opening something, make sure you close it as well. All right, always practicing good spiritual hygiene. Next up, that's it. We are going to go activate this crystal grid, but before I stop sharing my screen, I just want to say that I welcome any questions that you may have after this call, any comments, any feedback, and most importantly, I would absolutely love if you shared your grid workings with me. I would love to see what it is that you created. Again, I'm sending you the replay and this 4-page document of support and guidelines for how to set up your grid in more detail. You can always email me, text me, find me on my website, as well as on social media on Instagram and TikTok. I would love to connect with you there and be able to chat more about this kind of stuff. But before we get off the call today, let's activate this crystal grid. First, I'm going to stop sharing the screen and I will take you over to this grid. Let's go do this together. Okay, so here we are. Here's my crystal grid. And I want to remind you of the elements that I have included here. I'm going to first, with any crystal grid, start by putting down my intention underneath the focus stone, underneath the center stone. And as a reminder, the intention that I've set for tonight's crystal grid is the intention for collective healing, for love, protection from negativity, alignment and balancing the chakras, for unity, removing blockages, healing worry, overcoming fear, promoting calmness, good communication, grounding, and harmony. So I will put that into the center and place my intention stone on top, just like so. Now, I have tourmaline here. Tourmaline is for protection. Here I have Bumblebee Jasper, and I have some guardian stones here on the outside, which we did not get into detail, so don't worry if you're like, wait, what's a guardian stone? This is advanced grid workings. So I have guardian stones on the outside, but first of all, this is a Bumblebee Jasper heart, which is really great for, again, overcoming fear, connecting with your higher self, protecting you from negativity, aligning your chakras, balancing, finding joy, alleviating depression, all great things for the collective right now. Up here, I have a peach moonstone heart. And peach moonstone is really great for emotional healing, for acceptance, removing blockages, encouraging love and harmony. Then I have this pink aura quartz over here. It's also a heart shape. This is a much more gentle energy. It's a refreshing energy. It's really good for healing worry and improving mindsets. Again, I've got my quartz flame here in the center that is going to be anchoring all of this energy. And you will see that the overall grid design, again, is a circle with these kind of spokes coming out in every direction, representing a nod to the Ashoka chakra in sacred geometry. Now, as I mentioned, with activation, you will need a wand. If you don't have a wand, you can use a quartz crystal point. This is my favorite quartz crystal point, and I use this for so many different things. But this is what I am going to use tonight. If you don't have a quartz crystal point, that is also okay. You can also just use your finger to trace the energetic lines here. Now, to begin, to activate this grid, let us all together imagine the energy generating for the collective with the intention that I have written down on this card coming up through the center stone and flowing out into the collective. Okay, so I'll start by connecting this energy into my physical being. Touching my wand to our focus stone, the anchor of this grid and our energetic battery. And I'm just going to begin by drawing the energetic lines outward and back to the focus stone. And outward and back to the focus stone. Outward, back to the focus stone. And as I do this, I'm holding the intention in my mind behind this grid, the energy of collective healing, releasing blockages and negativity, holding this energy in my mind of collective unity and love, releasing any worry, any stress, and any fear. And I finish this activation by touching it to my third eye and bringing it into my physicality. Now that this grid is activated, I can call upon the energy of this grid at any time that I need it by just mentally retracing these lines and imagining the energetic connection between all of these stones flowing out into the collective and into the universe. And that is how you activate a grid. Now, I just want to remind you again that crystal grids, as any energetic battery, do need to be recharged. And to do that, you're just going to go through the same process of activation where you are bringing the crystal into you, your crystal or your wand, or even just your hands, bringing that energy into you, connecting to that center stone, our main conductor of energy, and then again, going back and imagining the energy flowing in every single direction here, flowing out into the collective. Okay. Happy full moon in Taurus. I hope that this information is something that you'll be able to utilize yourself, as far as taking advantage of the energy of this supermoon. It's tremendous time for manifesting, and especially with Taurus being an earth sign, utilizing Earth's gifts of crystals and working with crystals under this moon is especially potent. Now, if you don't have the time to work through any of this tonight, the energy of the full moon can still be felt for the next 3 days. So if you aren't able to do it tonight, definitely take the time for yourself to be able to build a crystal grid with intentions that you have set for yourself, over the course of the next few evenings. Now, with that being said, I will work on sending out that crystal guide out to you tonight to your email. And the replay will also be posted shortly. The link to that will also be sent to you in your email. And that's all I've got for you tonight. Thank you so much for joining me here live for the Beaver Full Moon in Taurus Crystal Grid Workshop. Or if you are not here on the live, if you are joining us via replay, thank you so much for being here. And thank yourself for taking the time out to spend some time with yourself and working on your own manifestations. And I hope that you have a blessed rest of your evening. And that's all I have for you. So I hope that you have a fantastic evening. Bye.